Well, it is No Men November at the theaters. They don't need men to help them sell tickets. It's all about women, and that's okay if women will go to the movies, but will they, and will they take their families? It did not work with The Marvels, which were not marvelous with women. No, less than 10% of women under 24 constituted the audience of that film. Men tried to save it, they just couldn't. But what's going to happen with Hunger Games? And what's going to happen with Trolls? Hunger Games is what we're focusing in on today. Does it outperform The Marvels? And is it worth going to watch? We'll talk about it right now. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, but mostly ladies because, well, you're the ones who want to go watch Hunger Games. Men, you're going if your lady tells you, and you're lucky to do so if that happens to you. But we're joined with Culture Casino today. Culture, you're going to tell us all about Hunger Games. You've seen the film, and you have now determined whether or not this is better or worse than The Marvels. That's what's going head-to-head. So, Culture, having seen both films, which one do you believe is of higher quality?
What's really strange is of higher quality. The easy answer is going to be Hunger Games is of higher quality. The film is better than it has any right to be, which I find odd coming out of my mouth. My expectations were very subdued going into it, and look, this is no male November as you suggested, and yet the primary lead in this film was the male character of Cornelius Snow. Overall, there is entertainment there, and I was surprised. But it's too long. 2 hours, 37 minutes is too long for any film these days, especially
Culture. I've seen that this is the lowest rated Hunger Games movie ever critically in terms of review score. Yeah. Do you think that's fair, or do you think that people are being perhaps a little too skeptical and perhaps too harsh with it? What do you think?
Well, because I'm looking at box office earnings, and I realize that there really weren't a lot of people that went to the preview yesterday. It only earned $6 million domestically.
That's a really bad sign, because that lines up with what the Marvels did, and we see how the Marvels is going. And by the way, folks, we're expecting the Marvels to have something like a 65% drop off. That is horrific given where it started. I mean, it can't get worse. We're in worst case scenario for the Marvels. But if Hunger Games is starting off at that same level, Culture, does this strike fear in the hearts of theater owners all across the country?
Well, perhaps. I think the theater owners, the exhibitioners, are probably concerned overall with what products they've been getting from Hollywood. But at the same time, I think that this film, because of the films that have surrounded it and led into it, is suffering just from lowered expectations, just like mine going into the film. I believe that this is a higher quality film than The Marvels. At least it was, as far as story goes. Acting was fantastic. There are many ancillary side characters, that did an extraordinary job with the parts they were given. It did feel very balanced as far as its presentation of everybody that was involved in it. And I have to say that some of this film is probably going to be driven by whether or not somebody actually went and read the book, because I would imagine most people felt like this story was long over with the previous 4 films. And this being a prequel, I mean, what more can be added? You already know that, Cornelius Snow is a bad guy. But in this film, you do find out why. And you also find out some background and some stories that you weren't familiar with. So it was, like I said, I think that if this has positive word of mouth, it'll do better than the Marvels, which wouldn't be hard to do, to be fair. But it's just,
so let's talk about the side characters.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You bring up the side characters. One of the key things that a lot of people are going to be paying attention to here, of course, is Rachel Zegler. You talk about Cornelius turning out to be the bad guy eventually. That's what everybody has known him to be. And this is sort of one of those Anakin Skywalker tales from the prequels of how did he become the bad guy? How did he become villainous? Hopefully it goes better than Cruella DeVille, who was roundhouse kicked by a Dalmatian. But Culture, the thing people are paying attention to is that Rachel Zegler They all want to know, can she overcome being villainous? Of course, she's had some very nasty things to say about Gina Carano in the past, about Jeremy Renner. She has disparaged Disney classic movies, called the Prince from Snow White a creeper, and all kinds of just really creepy stuff. Lately, she's been better behaved with the press, and we mean in the last few days since the SAG-AFTRA strike ended. So who knows, she may spout off again. But Culture, how does Rachel Zegler fare in this movie? And specifically, as you answer that, think about the fact that this is going to be her last big film, probably before Snow White, where she will be the titular character, and her performance here could impact that box office.
What's really strange, and this is going to sound odd for the secondary lead in a film, but her performance and her participation in this felt inconsequential. Again, she is featured because she's the competitor in the Hunger Games, right? The 10th annual one, in fact. Again, it could have been any actress. It didn't have to be her. The only thing that I was reminded of is that she's gifted as far as singing.
Tremendous singer. Yeah. An awesome vocalist.
Yeah, and she puts that on display in a way that I kind of wasn't prepared for. But at the same time, her putting on of an accent was quite telling.
She's doing like a southeastern accent, country kind of thing. Okay,
yeah,
and Midwestern maybe.
Yeah, and she puts that accent on, and it was she didn't drop it. That was fine, and you can truly believe that she's of a different people. Like District 12 is very heavily influenced by the South, but at the same time, I don't think her participation helps this film or hurts this film at all, which is weird to say. I do believe that because of her previous statements, the things you referenced just a moment ago, that will impact the box office negatively. Again, this is going to be a film this time, even though the ladies should be going to this, that will be dominated by men, which is an odd thing to say too. The target audience for this, by the way, this is something I have to mention. The target audience for this is now, a decade older than they were, when the original film came out in 2012, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're probably talking about, the key demographic here. So for the Marvels, they wanted to get women under 24, and they failed miserably. And that's, folks, we're telling you, men did everything they could to save the Marvels.
They did.
Men did everything they could. More than 60% of the audience was men. But for this movie, I think the key audience, they love to have young women come, but probably something like 24 to 40. That's probably the age range they're trying to get for women. If they get that one in spades, they're happy. If not, they're in real trouble.
See, and I think somewhere between 32 and 42, because again,
I'll go with that.
Yeah, these are ladies that were probably in high school when the first film came out, and they're maybe headed to college, and they were in love with Twilight, and this is basically Harry Potter Twilight kind of a thing, and so they knew the audience they were going for. The story.
Are you telling me they hopped off Team Edward and joined Team Katniss, and now they've got to become talk about devolving? Now they've got to become Team Ziggler. Ooh.
Maybe look. Her character is Lucy Gray in the film. I thought that was kind of interesting. But
about her. Let me zing her one more time, Coach. I just have to.
Okay.
It's got to damage your career when you come out and you just are awful to a man who was so heroic in a moment that he shoved someone out of the way of a snowplow and is ran over by the snowplow. And that's the guy you chose to be despicable towards. That doesn't go well for your career. But anyway, had to get that one in.
No. But again, because the target audience is that age group and they knew it, they wrote the story that way. So, hats off to the person that writes the books, and hats off to the person that, adapted it to a screenplay, because this was done rather well. And it's still not, it's still middle of the road film overall, but the only reason I'm singing its praises is because it's better than it has a right to be. It truly is. All right,
let's put you to the test then, Culture. Mm-hmm. This is what everybody's been waiting for. On a scale of 0 to 10, what would you rate this movie?
Well, let me preface that with what I gave the Marvels, which was a 4, and then I actually moved my
You
score
are
down.
way too generous. I gave the Marvels a 2.5 out of 10.
I was, but I moved that score down a couple of days later to 3.5. This film is right in the middle of the road. I put it at about a 4.5 out of 10.
Okay, so
You know,
this is barely better than the Marvels, but it is better.
oh, indeed, yeah, and
Okay.
look, there's not a lot of political messaging in it, if any at all, which is surprising. But Lionsgate's been doing better about that than almost anybody else, probably in just the desperation to compete. But if you cut this film down, if you remove 35 to 40 minutes of this film, which would be inconsequential to the storytelling, it wouldn't have affected it at all. This would have been even more popular. It would have been
Could have been a
more,
6 then, right? If they
yeah,
just cut out all cut the
yeah,
fat.
yeah. There was a lot of fat in this, and I don't understand why. We've been experiencing film inflation, I call it, for quite some time, where films just they have too much. There's too much in them that it doesn't really matter to the story. And aside from this film and many others recently, asking for more than one big ask. The story wasn't bad. It actually was. Character development was fantastic. You could certainly escape into this, and if you have a solid bladder, you might get more enjoyment out of it than me.
Maybe that's why they put in these fluff parts, in the movies. They need to have a caption that pops up and says, "This is when you go pee." But
Yeah.
Culture, final question for you, and this is the big one. Do you believe that this will outperform in terms of domestic first weekend? Do you think it'll outperform the Marvels domestic first weekend? What's your prediction here? I think
Whew.
it's got a really good shot at it.
I think it does too. I don't think it will, but I think it has. It's of any film that will be competing with it, whether it be Wish or whatever else that shows up later this month. I think this is the film that certainly could beat out the Marvels. 40s, 45, 46, 47 million. This could do it. I don't expect it to, but it could.
I think it's going to eke out the win. I think it's going to get about 47-ish, which
Probably.
would just barely beat the Marvels. So we'll pay close attention. It is going up against Trolls, and it has the Marvels still playing, and so that's a 3-way race instead of the Marvels, which had an open runway. So apples to
Yeah.
oranges, but still, it's going to be something that drives the media articles and narratives.
Let me suggest one last thing before we go, and that is,
Yes, sir.
unlike the Marvels, which is because Disney made it this way, it was a FOMO film, right? Because you had to see it opening weekend, and I would suggest everybody that wanted to see it saw it opening weekend. It's obviously going to fall off considerably, as you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation here. I think that this film actually has a chance to hang around for a while.
Well,
And
we will find out, and that's quite the prediction.
Well,
But
so.
there's not a lot that'll take it down in December. Of course, Wish coming up. But if it is going to hold on, well, this is the time to do it, folks. Now, Culture, you've been on the channel twice today. That's a double dosage of culture. Folks, by listening in, you have become part of the aristocracy of intelligentsia of understanding entertainment. We have explained it to you and kept you ahead of the culture curve with Culture Casino here with us. What fun it has been to have you twice, Culture. Folks, make sure you check out Culture's content by clicking on the link down in the video description below. He does such great work, and we've often called him the hardest working man on YouTube, so he is definitely earning your support. Folks, we would love to earn your support as well. Please click the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. We covet your comments. We care about what you think. Really and truly, we often respond. Don't forget, folks, we've got a big announcement coming up. This Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll do a special live stream with a press release about www.thatparkplace.com as we transform it into the premier place for pop culture news coverage. You don't want to miss that one. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Clickbait, fraud, drama queen. Ugh. I wish there was a channel that was 5 to 6 minute news reads without the drama, frauds, and clickbait that could accurately let me know the current news, providing my crucial context utilizing all the different That Park Place contributors and creators.
Well, stupid. There is. It's the That Park Place YouTube channel, which will be going live real soon, so make sure you're subscribed, so you can really stick it to the algorithms.
You're joking.
Nope.
Oh my.
Wow.
Make sure to catch The Pro Show Thursdays 5 to 7 Eastern Time. Entertainment Explained, The Culture Curve Conquered, live with Pro and all his friends.